So I have a burning question for you, Barbara. You
Okay.
know, when people, they're thinking about what they want to do when they grow up, they think about, oh, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a pharmacist. But no one really says I want to be an energy optimizer. So, how did you get into that?
Um, it was completely by accident. I was My younger daughter had a lot of issues from when she was very little. Started out with physical things like she needed her tonsils out before she was 3, and she had to have tubes put in her ears before she was 2. And after that, we started seeing a lot of anxiety and panic and food sensitivities.
Hmm.
And I was trying everything that I grew up knowing about, which was Western medicine, started to branch off a little bit into homeopathy and herbs and vitamins because just Western medicine wasn't working.
Hmm.
And just in the process of trying to figure out how to help her, I allowed myself to be open to all different possibilities. I wound up going to taking her to a healer. And I didn't even know what he did. Someone just said, you should take her here. And I would go there. And then that person would say, you should take her here. And I would take her there. And then that person would say, you should take her here. And so I wound up taking her to this guy who was a doctor. And I was told, oh, he will take care of her. No question. He's the perfect one. Like, okay, whatever. And as we were we were walking out, and she didn't seem any different. They were saying, "Oh, you'll notice a difference right there," but she didn't seem any different. But I never expected that because who ever heard of something being changed right on the spot?
Hmm.
It's take two and call me in the morning.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
at least, you're not going to see an improvement for 24 hours. So
Right.
I wasn't expecting anything. So I thanked him. Um, and I felt him just like read me. He just took in my data as we were, that really deep penetrating, like I totally get you kind
Mm.
of look. So I shook hands with him. We walked out. He was doing a lecture demo right afterwards, but we didn't stay for it because my daughter was feeling too ill. So we got in the car. We're driving home. Oh, and I have scoliosis.
Okay.
And it got to the point where I wasn't able to hold a chiropractic adjustment. I needed to have a lift put in my right shoe,
Wow.
and I had had that one inch lift, and I had that done like 2 weeks before.
Hmm.
Okay. So we get in the car, we're going home, and about 10 minutes into the car ride home, it was 8 p.m. because I looked at the clock. I felt tingling and heat on my back. And I knew enough to know that that was a sign of some kind of healing, because normally that doesn't happen.
Hmm.
You just randomly have tingling and heat anywhere in your body. Um, so I went home, um, took my shoes off, looked in the mirror, and my shoulders were straight.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And and I kept going back to the mirror like every 5 minutes until I just had to go to sleep. And my shoulders stayed straight. In the morning, I barely opened my eyes and boom, oh my God, I have to go check in the mirror. And so I jumped out of bed, went and looked in the mirror, and my shoulders were still straight. So it's like, oh, you know. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting. The clock is ticking, ticking, ticking. I'm waiting until it's late enough in the, this is 7 a.m. I can't call anybody at 7 a.m. What was doctor doing last night at 8 p.m.? So it got to be 10 a.m. I called someone who had been at, who had stayed for his lecture demo the night before. And I said, Bonnie, what's Dr. Ewan doing what was he doing at 8 p.m.? And it was early enough in his lecture demo that she was able to reconstruct it. He was working on a woman who wore a lift in her shoe.
What?
So, like, of course. So I made an appointment with my chiropractor for that day because it's, what I'm seeing in the mirror, it's one thing, we can confuse ourselves, talking about food and weight and stuff. We can look in the mirror and we can perceive ourselves to be either very enormous or very slim, and neither one is true
Mm-hmm.
because other people see us differently. So I wanted an objective person to tell me what was going on.
Well, and
So,
somebody who had been working on you for a long time.
exactly,
Okay.
and who's trained in knowing this. So I go to the chiropractor, and I'm standing there because she has a stand, and she's looking at me up and down and looking at her notes, and she says, "Well, you look really great." And I said, "Lana, I don't have my shoes on. Remember, I have a lift in my shoe." And she got a puzzled look on her face, and she looked at her notes, and she looked at me, and back and forth, and then she said, "Who is that man?" Because I told her what had happened, and I said, "I don't know. I'm going to find out." So I went. He was doing another lecture demo a few days later, and I went to that. And he was calling people on stage who had physical pain, and in 2 minutes or less, boom, one after another, pain is gone. And I said, I have to learn this. I have to learn this. So I went to a workshop that he was doing. It was very easy for me to pick it up, and then I started practicing. And I didn't really have very many people to practice on, so I set up a chat room on AOL. And I was there about 2-3 hours a day, 5 days a week, practicing on people. And by the end of the year, I'd worked on over 800 people with a nearly 100% success rate at reducing or eliminating their symptoms.
Wow.